Hey everyone, this is the first part of our series on preparing for NSDA Nationals in about 2 weeks. This file is already posted in the CSB Discord in the announcements channel, so to access this file and any other prep that we'll do in the future, which we will do, please join the server in the description below. So broadly, the first overall notes on how we go about this tournament, I think, is I avoid the specifics debate because it really goes back and forth, and you don't really know the judges' political preferences, right? For example, on climate policy, Obama set environmental regulations, but Trump also pulled us out of the Paris agreements, both of those using executive orders. So it kind of goes both ways, and it's very hard to break that type of clash, and that's true for all aspects, right? For example, social justice, like a Muslim ban was passed using executive orders, and at the same time, so was emancipation, right? So very hard to weigh those things, and the debate can turn into a really, really ugly mess really, really quick. So the overall abstract idea of whether or not executive orders is good seems to be the way to go, in my opinion. Okay. So broadly, our strategy is kind of interesting and maybe even a bit complicated to explain. So I definitely suggest if you want to read these, recolor everything so you understand it and practice it a few times. Uh, the first thing you do is you say executive orders don't do much, and these Kennedy codes are pretty good for getting the job done. The first one can have some better warrants that y'all should find. I just use it here because it's congruent with the second Kennedy card, seeing as it's from the same offer. For example, you can talk about how courts stop executive orders, agencies don't have the money, etc. Because remember, executive orders are just the president directing agencies in the government what to do. This also seems like it would take out the net case, right? But no. The arguments that you're going to see next are based on the process of attempting or mere existence of an executive order. And before I get into that, I think the best card kind of on this idea of executive orders being ineffective is this one, which says that on average, an executive order only has a 2.5% probability of being implemented, which I think can mitigate, or at least sounds really good to the judge in conceptualizing how ineffective these executive orders are. So the first reason why the existence or the process of trying to bring executive orders through is bad is the idea of court clog. This Thompson evidence says that multiple groups challenge executive orders. It explicitly says that has happened to every president. So don't let teams go up there and tell you that it's a Trump-only trend. Be prepared to have multiple examples off the top of your head from multiple administrations. For example, Obama tried closing Guantanamo Bay. Biden tried passing student loans for executive orders, but those were all blocked by courts. Trump has had multiple blocked in a few past days as well. This clogs up our courts. It's a common argument in debate, which is you have too many cases in the courts, so the courts are unproductive. They can't get through all of it due to limited manpower, limited time, limited docket space, etc. You can also look to some back files. It's a fairly common argument in not only PF but also policy. Okay. The impact is just the idea that if we don't have courts, then, for example, Congress could pass unconstitutional laws that Americans would be affected by, even though they're unconstitutional, because the courts can't check them, which is why this says like courts vital in preserving democracy. Okay. The second argument is about eroding public trust. So again, this is based off of the mere existence of executive order. The common responses to this, I think, are going to be twofold. The first is going to be about alt causes, and the second is that people aren't really going to care about how the policy is passed, just that the policy itself is good. Now, the first premises might be convincing at first, but I think it's very, very easy to persuade someone that just because you're seeing some democratic decline doesn't mean that you should allow for greater quantities of democratic decline to happen. And you can really emphasize, especially in front of these lay judges, how important democratic decline is, especially in today's times. The second one is wrong because the evidence here is pretty good for a few reasons. The Lawande evidence, which is below here, says that even good policies become less popular as a result. It says executive orders depress approval of the policy. And then, moreover, the Reeves evidence does a study and it says that even though people were at least it says lukewarm. They had lukewarm impressions of President Obama, but they still massively distrusted the idea of making an executive order, which is why it says what Americans think about the person occupying the White House does not translate to support for presidential power, right? So I think that also gets you out of that. This was really brief in general, wanted to keep this short, wanted all of you to spend times recutting these cards, finding cards of your own, to make your own arguments because I think that's how you get better at debate broadly. This is just a quick introductory overview. Just some final thoughts. There's probably a lot better impact than this Kasparov evidence. I just kind of grabbed it off a back file to fill it. Again, one of those things that y'all should go out there and find a better version of. Second, a lot of these cards are pretty over highlighted, so you should highlight them down if you're reading off cut cards or paraphrase them. That's also intentional so that y'all cut these yourselves. Also think about the weighing starting from the beginning, right? Think about how you can circum say that the AF is circumvented, not effective. Again, the overview is super good. Literally only 2% of executive orders have a probability of being implemented. I think you can leverage that a lot in the back half. Lastly, this argument isn't too long, so I consider pairing it with another contention, though make sure it isn't taken out by this defensive overview, if that's what you end up going for.